What is up, my Lorcana Goons, and welcome back to the Lorcana Goons channel. My name is Kevin, and we're with Zach Stone for the Friday Weekly Market Watch, where we talk about Lorcana news, meta trends, and card prices. And this is going to be our first ever post-ban list Market Watch, Zach Stone. If you guys didn't know, you guys have been sleeping under a rock. Haram Flavorsham got banned, which means you cannot play it in your competitive constructive format anymore, alongside Fortisphere. So because of this, we've just been seeing meta trends in the market. People have been definitely a little salty about the situation. But Zach Stone, how are you doing on this lovely Friday morning as we explore the future of the Lorcana metagame?
We're doing really well, Kevin. Thank you so much for asking. For all the Goon Squad members still supporting us today, thank you so much for being here for today's video. It is going to be an interesting market watch for sure. A lot of trends and a lot of shifting going on, but not shifting on top of characters, more like shifting from 4 copies to 0 because you cannot play this card like Kevin just mentioned. He genuinely reacted to it on a video just a few days ago that we uploaded, and it was because I called him and said, "Hey, you see the ban list?" He's like, "No," and I'm like, "Cool. I'm not gonna tell you. React genuinely and record yourself." So, well, we'll keep that up going forward if the Lorcana bans ever happen again. So make sure you are subscribed and you click that notification bell down below.
Yeah, I really appreciate you for that too, Zach. That was really awesome because I got to literally just give a genuine reaction to everything. I thought you were lying. I thought you were straight up pulling my leg when you said we had
April
a
Fool's was a week ago, bro. I couldn't. I
yeah,
couldn't.
yeah. So that was really cool. I briefly mentioned like my opinions overall on the ban list, but now that I've let it fester a little bit, I do just want to say that I personally am I have no issues with ban lists and Lorcana. And I also want to stress that this does not mean we won't get rotation. They could do that too. They could do both. I know people have been saying like, oh, this means we're not getting rotation, right? Which basically means they're gonna rotate some sets out of legal play and only use new ones. But they could still do that too. And another thing I want to stress also is we're going to go over certain card prices today that have been trending and cards that are kind of falling down in price because when cards get banned, a lot of people tend to sell off the cards from that archetype, from that color combo, in a hopes of trying to save some funds because sometimes these decks go from being tier 0 to tier 1 to tier 2. Personally, though, right off the bat, I think Sapphire is still more than playable. I've been playing a lot of Fight Club online, and I've been losing to Sapphire Ruby decks, Sapphire Steel decks. Even without Flavorsham in the deck, I think they're definitely still usable color combinations. So don't give up on the game. Don't just outright sell everything. But, maybe you do want to sell your Haram Flavorshams right now because these are going down in price after the announced ban. They were settling at around $30, almost $33 is like the highest market price. And today, you can find listings as low as 1025. Not sure why you'd want to buy them cold fill right now unless you're building a master set because like we just said, you cannot play them, right, Zach?
Absolutely not. So with this ban, they also included Fortisphere on top of Hiram Flavorsham. They did include reasonings in their post. I'm not going to go over them in this video. We recommend that you actually go onto the Disney Lorcana website and read what they talked about in their discussion because they had a Q&A in the Discord and pretty much most, if not all the important questions that were asked and answered were pasted onto that article as an update because it only showed the bans the first time I saw the link. But yeah, no more Fortispheres, no more Hiram Flavorshams. Your blue steel decks are completely in shambles. Your red blue decks are still trying to figure out what kind of draw engine they want to play. And we're going to kind of go over some of the different choices that you can go with right now. But no more Fortisphere in the blue steel deck. And again, I think this is a good call based on their reasoning and explanation. So make sure you check that article and do yourself a favor and make sure you know why they banned what they banned.
Yeah. So I do want to just stress also that they gave some pretty good reasoning. It's a good read, and in the comments below of the video I made, I know there was a lot of discussion, and I appreciate everybody who was being polite and being respectful and whatnot, and that's really what it's about. So if you guys are gonna have a discussion over this, keep it cool. We all have feelings too. There's no reason to be rude or mean over someone's opinion on whether or not this deck should be banned or not. But one of the big opinions right now is that discard is gonna be the best deck again, like the discard engine, whether you're playing Emerald Amethyst or Emerald Steel discard. And Diablo Devoted Herald keeps on coming up in the conversation as a card that should have been banned as well. And if this is a card that should have been banned but wasn't banned, it's definitely showing in the pricing right here because this card, and we talked about this card last week too, it was about $25 $45 last week. Because we had seen a lot of tournament results, the successful tournament results with Diablo Devoted Herald in those strategies, and the card was already going up from 25 to 30 to $35. But today, lowest verified is going to be Khan's Kingdom for 42.89 for your Diablo Devoted Herald right here. Then we have New Capina for 44.20, getting very close to $45 for this Diablo Devoted Herald. This is for the non-foil, by the way. Most recent sales are 36 cold foils for $60 are selling today. Wow. $45, 33 for some light plates, but 44 for a near mint. So it's looking like today you're going to have to pay at least more than $40 for your Diablo Devoted Heralds. Cold foils, let's look at the lowest verified listings today. They're going to be around the same price, actually, 44.28 with some $5 shipping, actually. So I want to say $50 for a cold foil and a little bit more than 40 for a non-foil. But like I was saying, a lot of people have just been talking online and basically saying this card's the best deck now. You got to play, you got to ban Diablo. What do you think, Zach?
I always like to mention that Diablo does cost 3 cards to commit into the board, so you have to draw like 2 to break even, 3 for it to actually become like a card that generates like extra value. However, it's still a problem for some decks. There are color combinations that don't have consistent access to evasive characters or any at all, and they don't have real ways of dealing damage or removing characters from play. It's basically Steel and Ruby that have clean answers to Diablo, while everything else is kind of, a little bit more nuanced, I would say. You have your Amethyst Rush characters like Peter Pan's Shadow Finder. You're having Pegasus being played in Ruby decks, but Diablo is still a problem because if you combined it with cards like Let the Storm Rage on, you can deal with some of those evasive threats that are going to contest your
Hitting
Diablo.
Cove.
So it's not always guaranteed that you'll be able to remove Diablo if you just play evasive cards in your deck. And yeah, we know that Elsa the Fifth Spirit was a card that was a pretty much a mainstay to take care of this back in the day. But yeah, right now $45 is about what you would pay for foils and or non-foils, but this last foil for about $50. It goes to show that the ones that have the enchanted art are just a higher rarity. So the foils don't really see a significant bump.
Yeah, now that I think about it, there's not a lot of sapphire and amber outs to it, like just for that color pool in general. So you see, it feels like you still can't play a blue-yellow deck comfortably in the meta. There's gonna be a bunch of Diablos running around. Emerald does have like stuff like Cloud Kicker, but you move Diablo into the Cove, and suddenly you just can't do that no more. But enough about Diablo. We know this card's good. It's been good. It's been a conversation of a banhammer for a while now. But I still think it's a more than reasonable card in the metagame. My personal opinion. Please don't like yell at me for that. Let's talk about some cards that you can use in your Amethyst strategies instead of your Sapphire strategies instead of Flaversham, because Flaversham is the most important thing about that card is that it was a draw engine, right? So I think a lot of people are pivoting to other types of draw engines, or just in general. I want to look at the Sapphire cards now. Maurice's Workshop. This card was already seeing some decent play this format with the rise of item decks, and it had hit as high as $3 in a market price, and it kind of came back down to around $2. But I do think this card is going to see more play again now that Sapphire might need some more consistent draw power. Right now, there's some sellers that have it for as low as $1.23 with some extra shipping. Then it jumps up to $2.70 with the extra shipping cost. So it's going to be around $3. I think you're going to have to pay for it. And cold foils have been selling for around $20, but I do think they're going to be going back up very soon. Yeah, from 20 to as low as 15, back up to $18 right here. Lowest verified by Foul now, 17.99. Then C Villainous has it for 17.99 as well. So I do think the market price for this card is a little bit outdated right now, 15.75, but you're gonna have to pay at least $18 right now for a foil Maurice's Workshop. This card says whenever you play another item, you can pay 1 extra ink to draw a card. And in my experience, a lot of color combos do not have item removal. So as a Ruby Amethyst enjoyer, I am trying Ruby Amethyst again, and whenever I run into Sapphire Steel, Sapphire Ruby, the moment they slap this workshop on, it almost feels like GG's, because they just keep drawing card after card after card. Popsicle draws them 2 cards. Every Sapphire coil nets them a +1 now, and they can afford to pay the extra ink. It's not asking too much for a Sapphire to pay the extra ink. You know what I mean? Tamato Happy as a Clam. This card going down in price now. Finally going down in price. This was always more than $50, $55, almost $60 at one point. And obviously, with the recent announcement of this ban, a lot of people are going to give up on Sapphire. I do think that if you are playing Sapphire, this is one of the cards you want to play because it still says grab 2 items for free from your discard pile. And at some point, you could have 2 popsicles there, and there you go. There's your draw power. There's your +2 cards that Flaversham would have given you. Still a very powerful card. Not sure if you play 4 of in the Sapphire decks. I'm not the biggest Sapphire enjoyer, but we do have a video coming out tomorrow where we sit down with Jonathan Martinez and Shane Downey, who are members of Team Goons, who very much are great Sapphire players. So you can hear those opinions there. But 48.99 low is verified by Celestial Vault for your Tamato Happy as a Clam. And cold foils today. Cold foils are going to be sitting at $60 still. Not too bad. These haven't come down too much because they were already around like 65, 70 because they have the Enchanted Rare, right?
Absolutely. Again, guys, the cold foils of the legendaries or some of the other cards that have an enchanted art don't see a big significant price gap. I've been saying this since I think set 3, where like we had the Robin Hood champion of Sherwood. Cold foils did not go up as much higher than your non-foils did. And Tamatoa is following the same suit. Remember, guys, if you are in the Southern California area and you're looking to pick up some of these cards, some of these good prices, we do have locations you can visit us at. I'm at the Frankenstein's Collectible Show every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Kevin, where can they find you at?
You can find me at the Ninja Exchange Collectible Show in Carlsbad, California. That's San Diego County. I've had some people actually come from they go visit their family in San Diego, and then they'll stop by and say what's up. And I really appreciate you guys for that. You guys are awesome. So yeah, if you're ever in North San Diego County and you want to stop by a small collectible show in our vendor space, we do tournaments Friday nights too. And in general, bring your decks because sometimes I have some downtime. Maybe we can get a game in or something, right? Especially in this new meta where there's less Sapphire, and I can actually play some pretty cool decks. I think that's the most important thing about this ban list is that it feels very refreshing to be able to play a bunch of other strategies. And again, like I know discard is a little polarizing, like the discard strategy, but I don't know how consistent or how good it is. But again, my personal opinion. Scrooge McDuck, Resourceful Miser. This cold foil coming down in price, selling for $40 now. They were a little bit more expensive. Today, Raiden Slip is the lowest verified for $39.67, and the non-foil Scrooges, these are going to be selling for $20 now. Lowest non-verifieds are going to be $20 with $1 shipping. Lowest verified, we have another level for $23 right here for your Scrooge McDucks. Again, another Sapphire, another card that was heavily reliant on the Sapphire strategy of being able to get constant recursion with Flaversham. But I think this card's still very good. You know, I think on turn 3 you can play Grandma. On turn 3 you can ramp into Scrooge McDuck and still generate yourself a +1, which is my opinion is very good considering a lot of decks don't even have a lot of draw power, right?
Yeah, you gotta remember, guys, that this is still a card that says you can play this character for free, and I think that's something that really highlight that anytime a card says free, it's probably good. Um, Even if you don't find your item, it has a decent body to sustain against a lot of the steel removal. Sure, Zeus can take it out, but I don't think you would mind that too much in comparison to your Happy as a Clam being taken out, right? So this is just a nice card that fits the 4 slot really well. We are going to be looking to fit more 4 cost characters now that Hiram's been banned. So this might be the first thing you think about when you play Sapphire decks. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Another card that people want to try and play, would be seen a little bit of a interest in for the market, is Kita, the Creative Thinker. This is from Arcasia's Island. She is a rare, and if you guys don't remember what she does, she basically lets you look at the top 2. You take a card from there and you put it in your inkwell, and the other one stays on top. So you get to kind of manipulate your deck count that way. Also, she has wards, so she's going to be able to survive. And shout outs to Jonathan Martinez. He has been, talking about this card in combination with Raya from Azurite Sea. So when you have her and then you play after you use her ability, you play the Raya, you get to use her again because of the fact that you put a card in your inkwell. And you get the card in your inkwell from her ability, so it triggers, and you just get to re-ready her. Either you use her twice in a turn, or you keep her ready for the next turn. That way she can always keep generating you extra ink. And I really like this card. Cold foils have been bought out. I think there's only
Yep.
one copy left.
Yep.
But if you're not a cold foil gamer, plenty of non-foils available for you at a very low price.
Yeah, the non-foils are going to be still very, very cheap. Cold foils, all the recent listings that were selling for $8, $5, $8, $7. Like Zach said, only one listing left at 863 by Cards on Deck TCG with $1.25 shipping. Again, the new format just started, so I like to wait a little bit before I make some of these decisions. But that's a really cool combo, by the way. I combining it with Raya. Another cool combo I think is using LeFou. The LeFou from Chapter One, the Ruby character, lets you re-ready a character and then you can potentially do it again. Right? It's not once per turn, so that's really cool. There is some neat strategies now that are developing. With the lack of Flower Shem, and this card will still generate you a +1 if you do it multiple times. You know what I mean? So that's always really cool, and that's what I like about these like ban lists is that it feels like people are getting just very creative. You know what I mean? Another thing that I've been noticing too is the rise of the Sapphire Steel aggro deck, the Kiwi aggro Sapphire Steel deck, as they call it. The Alice Savvy Sailor is just shooting up in price even more and more this week. I feel like if you are playing Sapphire Steel, maybe this is the deck list that you're going to pivot to. Lowest verified for this Alice Savvy Sailor is going to be 11.85, getting very close to $12, almost $13. Non foils are going up in price as well. These were kind of peaking at $4 to $5, but look at this, lowest verified is 370 again, 375 with $1 shipping. Non-verifieds do have it for a little bit cheaper if you want to pick it up from them, but it's getting close to a $5 card again. It's a super rare from the Azurite C set, so it's a pretty newer card, and I think it's a very good strategy if you want to keep playing Sapphire or Sapphire Steel, right? Another big card from Sapphire Steel was the Sheriff of Nottingham. We saw last week Zan Sayed post about this card because he got first place at a pretty big tournament playing 4 copies of this in Sapphire Steel. But Zach, you let me know that he posted somewhere that he does not use this card anymore after this ban list, right?
It was in the more recent Club Lorcana podcast, so make sure to check out his channel if you're interested in those kind of long form content. It's a conversation he has with him and his buddy Jeremy Bertranoni, who we did have feature as a recent guest on one of our episodes. But yes, I don't believe that they're wanting to try this card anymore. Remember, Fortisphere was also banned, so the extra one cost items that you have in your arsenal were more or less removed. So you have more of a higher cost to pay when you play him. But overall, a very, very interesting card to look at. Cold foils are still sitting pretty high now, which might be something that will stay around for a while. We might see over time this card go down in price to about $2 to $3 cold foil. But right now, if you're looking to pick any up, they are going to cost you about $11 each for those cold foils. But just like the Kita, non-foils are very cheap and very affordable.
Yeah, and that's what I like about Lorcana is that they give us the option between the shiny cards and the non-shiny cards. If you want to pay 22 cents with $1 shipping, you can do that for your sheriffs. Or if you want to pay the $10 to $15 for the cold foils, you can also do that too. And I also want to stress that I have been seeing people use this in a new like Ruby Sapphire item based deck. And we also have to remember that like I forgot how many formats ago. I think it was during set 4, but one of the DLC winners was one with a Ruby Sapphire item strategy. So I do think that is still a more than playable strategy. I know Zach, you mentioned that the Prince John, the 4-cost Prince John, is still really good. Lets you play a popsicle from your discard for free. There's some great ways to generate your advantages in your deck. But enough about Sapphire cards. I'm like Sapphired out, to be honest. Outside of the enchantments we're gonna talk about at the end. So let's talk about some other strategies people are kind of pivoting to. Doc Bold Knight just shooting up in price this week, dude. We've been seeing the non-foils listed and selling for more than $15 this week. Check this out. A recent sale. Recent sales are $12.85, $15.51, $15. They have calmed down a little bit. That as soon as the ban was announced, I think a lot of people rushed over to start buying some cards for their new decks. But so they have kind of relaxed from that $15 price point. But right now we only have a couple listings that are less than $15. We have Nerd Pawn, $13.45. Impact Collection, $13.48. Shout out you guys for these low prices, right? And then we have Pastel Genesis now hitting $16.39 with $1 shipping. Then we have some non-verified sellers at $18 with $2, $5 shipping, and then Honest TC drop sorry, Honest TCG Shop at $22 with $1.25 shipping. These prices are everywhere, from as low as $13 to as high as $23.99 from some of these verified sellers on the first page. Personally, I'm glad I have my docks. I've been playing dock in my decks for a while because I just haven't touched Sapphire. So it's really reassuring for me to see like cool. Like I hold on to these cards just because I know they're good cards, and Lorcana is a fun game in my opinion because it's a game where you can actually afford to build multiple decks. You know, I have green red, sorry, I have green yellow Turnidogs, and then I have purple steel. And I still have all my Ruby cards from last format. So whenever I want to break down the purple steel deck, I'll make Ruby Amethyst. You know what I mean? But Doc is a card that I've always held on to for as a personal playset, just because I think this card's insane. You know, it does what Flaversham does. It lets you draw two cards. You can only do it once, though. That's the thing about Flaversham that was kind of annoying, is that you're able to generate up to 4 cards most of the time, unless your opponent played a Brawl or something like that. And most color combinations do not have Brawl style cards. But with this card, you can bounce it back with Snake. You can play it again, so that's really cool. A lot of people are using this in their Amber Steel strategies, their Sapphire Steel aggro strategies, their Purple Steel strategies, and even their Emerald Steel discard strategies are playing this dock. So if you have these docks and you've been holding on to them, they're getting very close to $15 to $20, which is really awesome to see, and I think it's very warranted. This buyout though is crazy. Look at the cold foils. These cold foils, man, market price is now $31, and there's only one listing by Bear and the Bugs cards for $30 with $2 shipping. Most recent sales are going to be $19.99, $39.99, $39.99. Oh my goodness, people are buying this card for $40 as a cold foil. That is pretty high up there. I love to see it. Zach, how do you feel about Doc's price today? At least the cold foil price.
It's a bold night there, Cotton, I would say, because it's a very hard card to pull off in some strategies. So you have to be more of an aggro deck to kind of like get full value of this card. I always tell people that this card actually just used to be 50 cents, like when it first dropped, and it's always funny to bring that up because no one believes me, and then I don't have a way of like showing them outside of recommending our old market watch videos. But the card is seeing a complete turnover in not only playability, in the market trend, and also just being like an awesome leader of the Seven Dwarves. I would say, he is the leader. Very nice card to have in your collection too. If you're looking to master set your cards, this will be a tough one to get. Kevin, you mind explaining why we're talking about Helga Sinclair today?
Yeah, so the reason I brought up Helga Sinclair is because I've been seeing this card get bought up a lot as an extra out to Diablo. So I want to talk about just random cards that also have some high potential this format, and that I've been seeing people talk about in the online space as like ways to combat the future meta. Because again, a lot of people are giving doomer vibes about the discard engine or about Diablo itself, right? Helga Sinclair, a very strong card, 2 cost uninkable, 0 strength, 4 willpower that says Challenger +3, and during your turn, this character gains evasive. So you'll be able to challenge a Diablo and deal 3 damage to it, which means you can even banish the Diablo if it's sitting at the hidden cove, which is one of the biggest problems I think that the Emerald Steel deck or Emerald in general can pull off is Diablo turn 1, shift Diablo, move it to the cove. That is like a 3 to 4 card. It's a 4 card combo because you have to have an action, 2 Diablos, and the cove to pull that off. But if you can stop that 4 card combo with one Helga Sinclair, I think that's something worth looking into, right? Cold foils right now are very cheap. They're only selling for around 25 cents with $1 extra shipping, and they don't go up to 50 cents until the next page. But as you can see from this chart right here, there's a lot of sales movement happening for sure. There's a lot of interest happening in this card. So I get the feeling that this is going to be a soon to be, I don't know about staple in steel decks, but it's going to be a more than playable card this coming format, especially because people are also pivoting back to our lovely Genie Wish Fulfilled, which just came tumbling down in price at the beginning of the format, bro. These were selling for like $5, right? And so many people were selling me their genies, and I was just buying them up, you know what I mean, at the booth, which is very reassuring because I've always thought this card was broken still. You know what I mean? One of the biggest things, though, was that, like, this card just dies to, like, big Sisu, like Sisu shift, and With Sapphire Coil being such a big card in the meta for red blue decks before, it meant also that this card loses out to Sisu Daring Visitor and a bunch of stuff like that. But now that we're pivoting back to like it seems like a Diablo format or even like an evasive format, I like to think. I think Genie Wish Fulfilled is one of the best evasive characters we have in the card pool. He's a 2/4 body. That 4 willpower is very hefty, so he's not going to lose out to cards like Smash, Storm Rage on, Fire the Cannons, etc. When you play him, you draw a card. Very important. And he quests for 2, and he has 2 strength. So with that evasive body, you can just clear Diablo if it's not at the cove. I know some people are kind of like, oh, it sucks though because you have to draw the card and it's going to trigger the opposing Diablo. But hey, if you can get rid of that Diablo, that's way more important than giving your opponent an extra card in their hand. And to be honest, like getting rid of that Diablo is so important. So this is a card that I predict is going to be played at 4-ofs in most Amethyst decks. And as of today, lowest verified is $8.95 with $1.31 shipping. And now after that, they're going to be back at $10 by your boy selling over here, $10.40 shipping included. So Genies back up to $10. They used to be $15 at one point. Cold foils are shooting back up in price as well. These were less than $15 last week, and today you can find them for as low as $18.94 by Booba Dean right here for your lowest verified Genie Cold Foil Wish Fulfilled. Getting close to 20 bucks again, dude. I love to see it. Want to talk about Ursula, Deceiver of All, because as we know, people are pivoting to Emerald style decks right now, and one of the best Emerald legendaries is this Ursula DOA that can let you sing songs twice. So if you ever wanted to discard 2 cards instead of 1 from your opponent's hand with a sudden chill, you can do that with this card, or maybe even use Storm of maybe even use Let the Storm Rage On to deal 4 damage across the board and draw 2 cards, right? Khan's Kingdom has the lowest verified for $11.17 with some extra shipping costs right there. Then your boy Selden has the lowest verified after that for $13 shipping included. I get the feeling this is going to keep going up though. What do you think?
Well, I can already tell you that I've had not a handful of people, but I can definitely say 2 or 3 play sets sold this past Wednesday at the show. So yeah, it's a card that's been asked for. Keep in mind the cold foils aren't too much more than your non foils, but it has an enchanted rare. I think we're starting to remember now, right? So enchanted rares are the highest rarity of a card that we have until they become like DLC promos in any way. That's kind of what this is this is like no this game is known for. And it's a hard enchanted to really find. I actually have not been able to buy one in out of any of the enchanteds that came by. This one is yet to come by way, but you never know. It can happen any day, and if you got any enchanteds you're letting go, we'll be interested in those. But yeah, this is just a an overall really good card. I think I've said this before to you, Kevin, that this is definitely a ban worthy card. The more songs they print, they have to keep in mind this character, and they have to really respect the fact that you can sing songs twice, which shouldn't be allowed in this game, but it's only limited to this one card, which I can understand, but it's a very powerful effect. Steel gets the best of both worlds, singing your discard cards to draw more with Prince John, or to take out a wide board with multiple damage songs being sung, or just one big character with the strength of a raging fire. You can pretty much shoot it down by hitting it twice.
Yeah, I've had people shoot down my Chernobog with this card. They sank strength twice, and it's still like 10 damage. It's pretty nuts. It's a very good card. I think one of the coolest strategies is that you set up a Diablo and you set up Ursula, and your opponent has to pick which one do I brawl now. Sometimes that is a little overpowered, so I do understand why that is frustrating for some players. But very good card. Cold foil is very cheap right now for $15 with $1.50 shipping, and the non foils are very close to that same price. So personally, I want to buy the shinies in that case. Talk about Pete Games Referee, which is very good in the Emerald Steel deck because we also have the Shift Pete Space Parrot to talk about as well. Non-foils for these Pete's are just shooting up every day is what it looks like. Lowest verified is only $1.19 with some extra shipping right here by Stone Drink Collects. And it's going to stick around $1.50-ish with some extra with an extra dollar shipping. So it's about $2 to $3 for your non-foil Pete's right there. Cold foils though, these are not that available. There's a big scarcity with the cold foil Pete games today. There's only 9 listings available. Lowest verified starts at around $17 with that extra shipping, and then it jumps to $19.45 by North Valley Games with $2 shipping, so it's around $21. Then Dr. Nog's shop right here has it for $25 with shipping included. Then it jumps to $35 by Lorcana Origins TCG over here. So Once again, the card prices just everywhere for some of these cards right now. I think when there's like a big difference in like the pricing, like up and down this page, I tend to want to wait before I pick up any of these cards. In terms of like for my own like personal collection, recent sales are $15, $16 around for the cold foil, 17. So most recent sales haven't hit that $20 mark yet, but I'm not going to be surprised when this becomes a $20 cold foil as well. And there's a new Floodborne Pete from this recent set that you can just shift on top of it. This one that's shooting up in price this week. The market price right now is 174, but the lowest verified is going to be 275 with extra $1.31 shipping right here by the Rift NY. Then we have Nice Guy Collectors for $1.25 and $1.50 shipping right there. So it jumps up and down from around $2 to $3, sorry, it jumps up and down from like $3 to $4 for your non-foil Pete Space Pirate, but the cold foils also very scarce. Only 8 listings available. Lowest verified is Nerd Pond 1490. That's basically $15 right there for your Pete Space Pirates, and then it starts climbing up to $20 right here by Raiden Slith very, very quickly. So anywhere from $15 to $20 is what you might have to pay for this card. Zach, why do you think this card's shooting up in price like this?
This is just a very, very powerful card. Not only does all your pirate characters, which includes himself, gain the resist one, it doesn't allow opposing characters to exert themselves and sing songs. So your other steel strategies, your mirror matches, or your amber steel song decks, or even some sapphire strategies too, can get really punished by this. I know the DKP deck plays a lot of songs, and it does try to utilize singing them to gain a lot of extra lore advantage. And plus, giving your extra characters that resist one could be very handy into dealing with some of the big strength characters. I know if you got 3 of these in play, a Maui shark can't even swing into it, which is crazy.
Yeah, that
Mind you,
resist.
it won't banish it, at least if it swings into it.
I
But
forget.
yeah, that resist is good.
Yeah, I forget about the resist ability for this card because it gives it to all your pirates, not just your other pirates too. So it'll give it to himself if you're playing other pirate strategies. This is definitely a card you want to add in there. The Troubadour, the musical narrator. We talked about this a couple weeks ago because it was going up in price, and I think now that Ruby Sapphire is going to be less prominent in the meta. I think Amber Steel, this is a dual ink Amber Steel card, I'll get Thrive a little bit more comfortably. You know what I mean? And I think people have realized that too. Lowest verified is going to be 481 with $1.31 shipping, then 498, 499 with that extra shipping cost. So this is a $5 cold foil now. That was a cold foil price, by the way, guys. If you want the non foils, they're still super cheap. But a very good card from Arcasia's Island. If you pull the cold foil, it's basically $5 right now. And last but not least, before we get into these last enchanteds, Queen of Hearts Sensing Weakness been kind of climbing up in price this week, Zach Stone. You're telling me that people are taking an interest in playing this card in their Ruby Sapphire strategies, and it's looking like the prices are going up a little bit from these verified sellers. TCG Bacon is $2 with $1.31 shipping. Then Dork Den Moncado $2.75 with some extra shipping, $2.99. So anywhere from $3 to $4 right here for the Queen Sensing Weakness, which is a card from Rise of the Floodborn. I tend to feel like a first chapter and now Rise of the Floodborn cards are getting pretty pricey. Because they're just hard to find. Cold foils, anyways. What do you think?
Well, yeah, not only is this card a little bit harder to find, I even find myself finding or looking for spare non-foils in my bulk box just because of how often that this card does get played, even in some like non-competitive strategies. It's a very, very important card to mention because I think alongside the Shift Queen from set 2, it's one of the few characters that actually have the 3 difference in shift costs compared to its original cost. So you don't have to pay 5 to ship this on top of a character named Queen of Hearts. I don't think that there's a 1 cost Queen of Hearts yet, but I am not confident in that. I could be wrong, but there's a lot of 2 cost ones. There's the one from set 2 itself, also the newest one from the Arcasia's Island, that 1/4 that gains 3 strength when damaged. So it's just a card people are trying to experiment and trying to play. It allows you to sing your 4 and 5 cost songs a turn early since you're shifting it on turn 3. And it allows you to have some extra card draw because you get to play other rush characters, and it doesn't necessarily consider it considers itself, so it doesn't really mind if you are challenging with her. You still get to draw a card, but you have other rush characters like Maui and a couple other ones that people have been testing out
Super
that it
Goof.
lets you. Yeah, exactly. They give you the extra card draw when you're challenging. So it's a nice card that people are having fun with, and I'm wanted to talk about it because it's these are easy to find copies if they're non foil, but the cold foil versions is really where because a lot of these good uncommons that are cents in comparison to like $10, like Merlin Goat and Metamim Snake. So another card. Those are also cards from Floodborne. So maybe it's just a trend from the set.
Floodborne's a good set. Yeah, the set two is a very good set, and you can also find your Japanese Floodborns for a little bit cheaper on TCG Player if you guys want to crack open some Rise of the Floodborn, and you can use those for your TCG tournaments over here in these areas. But that's going to be all for our non-enchanted cards. Let's talk about the enchanted Diablo, because we've been talking about how this is where people are pivoting to. This might be the next best deck of the format, and this is the highest rarity for the Diablo Devoted Herald. And yeah, look at this, dude. Boom, these just shot up in these last couple days. A lot of people picking up their enchanted Diablos from $130 market price to 150 as the market price today. Lowest verified is going to be 159.99 with $2 shipping by Strike Zone Online, so around 160. Then Tier 1 Games California, shout out you guys, is going to be $165. Then Finch and Sparrow, another Southern California shop, $172 right there. So from 160 to 170 is probably what you're gonna have to pay for your enchanted Diablos. Or if you have these in your arsenal and you've been like, building up your trade binder, congratulations, you now have a $170 bird in your trade binder slash deck, which is really cool. I think this card's very powerful. I think the enchanted artwork is beautiful. And that's my favorite thing about Lorcana is that we have these like high rarity like full art cards that you can use for your decks. But if you don't want to play this rarity, you can play the now $40 version. But those are your only options because they just went up in price. You should have got your Diablos when they were $20, like we were telling you in the Market Watch like a month ago. We have the receipts. You can go check the videos. We have the receipts there. Talk about Tamatoa before we call it a day. RAP Sapphire. And Sapphire is still good. Sapphire is still a good color, guys. Tamatoa Happy as a Clam has been kind of coming down in price a little bit. Market price was 407. Recent sales are going to be 475, 380, 380. This was all since the ban list. And look at this. Lowest verified is Tournament City, 370 with 99 cents. Lowest verified for your Tamatoa Happy as a Clam. I think this card's still very much collectible. I think the card's still very much playable. The color's still very important, I think, in the color card pool. But I wouldn't be surprised if this card does kind of dwindle in price a little bit, especially now that it lost like a big chunk of its playability. It's still beautiful enchanted though. I think it's one of the best ones from the set. So I would put it up there still with like the Mufasa tier from Shimmering Skies in terms of collectability. There's a lot of Moana fans too. So if you're just collecting the Moana cards, I think this is something you're gonna obviously want to have. But overall, Zach, how do you feel about Tamatoa Happy as a clam in the future of the metagame?
Um, so in the future of the metagame, I definitely think that this card's here to stay. It's again, it got the word free in its name, and that's a very, very important thing to mention. Cards that say free are generally good, and even if they're not being played, they always will have potential. You always will have to think back to characters like Jim Hawkins from set 3 that has free in its name twice. So just for more or less some reference points, like that's generally been the standard in card games, is that when things allow you to have a essentially a free cost to them, then they, are a little more overpowered than your other cards that have a cost to them, right? And not only that, it recurring to items is very important in your Sapphire strategies, even with the hit that they took. They're going to be leaning a lot on some item based decks, so we could see some item removal make more, show up more in some steel decks. Plenty of item removal there. Emerald has item removal, and I think that's yeah. Sapphire also has its own form of item removal too. So there is a world where this card doesn't see 4 copies in its list, maybe 3, maybe even 2. But even then, just a very very hard card to answer. Still probably the chase from the set no matter what. I don't think you can you'd want to pull anything else. If you're looking to get the most amount of value, this is the one to hit. And collectability wise, it would probably still stay around the $300 point, even if it didn't see play. So it's a very safe card to have. Mind you, collecting and anything in this space is just up to the individual, and we don't necessarily recommend any of these purchases as like financial advice. But just remember, guys, if you see a price of a card low enough to where you're comfortable paying for it, I always implore people to just buy it then, because if you set a price that you know you want to pay for a card and you see that price hit there and you're thinking, oh, I'll wait till it gets lower, I'll wait till it gets lower, and shoots back up like the Diablo just did, right? You can't wait too long for some of these card prices. They're good deals. You got to get them deals when they're hot, and we know how these things go in card games.
Them deals, yeah. Collect what you like. You know what I mean? That's really what it boils down to. Like, if you're collecting and playing, like, collect what you like. Like I took a chance and I picked up a what is it? All is found from Zach Stone, not that long ago, and it was like in the first like week or two from when the set came out. So I was like, oh, this card's just gonna go down in price, but I just really want it. You know what I mean? And it's still the same price. It's still like 120 bucks for that enchanted, and that hasn't really moved at all. And again, like, collect what you like. You know what I mean? I would have been satisfied if that card fell. I wouldn't have cared, and that really just is a matter of I like that card and I like Frozen. And I know a lot of people like certain IPs, Moana fans, Lion King fans, and all that stuff. So any cards that you're looking at, like Zach said, if you just want to pull the trigger on them and you're gonna be collecting them, like, that's really where the value is, in my opinion. But yeah, that's gonna be all for our Friday Market Watch, our first Market Watch post Lorcana's first ban list. Real quick, RIP Flowersham. I also want to mention that, hey, you never know. There could be a world too where in a year from now the power creep is so crazy that they unban Flaversham, right? So if you have the cold foil Flavershams in your trade binder still from the decks that you were playing and you don't want to get rid of them, just hold on to them. You never know. You never know when this card could come off the ban list, or you never know if they ever print an errata for this card in the future. They've done that with other card games as well. They could easily print the same Flaversham but just give them 4 willpower, and they can tell you, you know what, you can still use your old copies too. You just got to respect the new text or the new stat line or something, right? So they could do that too, guys. Remember, it's not the end of Lorcana. If you're playing Sapphire, start cooking up some new strategies like a lot of these other players are. Keep up in our Discord as well if you guys want to join. The links down below. And keep up with all of our meta style videos that we upload in between the weeks for Market Watch. We have a new video dropping tomorrow going over Sapphire, the state of Sapphire in the metagame with our team and team members. And I've been trying to dedicate myself to streaming on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Central Time. So if you can tune in for those, we'd appreciate you. Our Lorcana Goons, thank you so much for watching. We really hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Good luck in your tournaments. Good luck in your tournaments this weekend as we enter the new format. If you guys end up doing well, please tag me on Twitter. Tag Zach on Twitter as well, or post in our Discord, because we want to see these spicy deck lists that y'all been cooking up in the new meta format. Zach, anything you want to say before we call it a day?
Just want to say thank you to all of the Goon Squad members in our Discord server. Without you guys, the community wouldn't be where it's at. If you're not involved, make sure you join with our link down below. We have an invite code. You guys can get in, get active. Make sure you pick a role, because it's going to help when we tag certain roles. It gives you more insight into those news. And if you want those details right when they drop, make sure to get involved. And until then, stay tuned to Lorcana Goons. We'll see you Goons next time.